All right, and we are recording. Welcome everybody to our little interview series that we're doing with super successful coaches in the Team Beachbody business. Today, excuse me, water. She's so successful that I'm speechless and choking on myself. But today we've got Colleen Curtis, who is a good friend of mine. 7-star coach, 2-time elite, 135 in the company last year, 6-figure earner. What? Somebody insert the disclaimer somewhere below. And I want to start by just telling you a quick story. We met in Vegas in a bar, which is not all that uncommon, actually. And I have a picture here somewhere if I can get to it. Hey, here are you. Stupid Zoom thing's in the way. Hey, there we are. And actually, this is kind of a funny story behind this whole thing. I don't think it was the same night, but it was right around the same time that I met Christine Delgado and Becky Brissett. So it's kind of like, wandering around Summit, just, in the MGM bar, as I'm kind of prone to do, for those of you who know me. And came across this group of girls, and they said, "Hey, Dave, we're, Colleen, Katie, and Natalie, and we want to meet you and talk to you and blah, 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 blah." And I think I sat there and probably tried to impart some little bit of knowledge about this business on them. But I just wanted to show you guys that picture. I thought it was really funny and just reminded me of, I was looking for it earlier because it really reminded me of just our meeting. And then I think, we really kept connected over the years, and at leadership. For those of you who are really trying to grow your business, getting to that leadership event is really, for me, that's the best event of the year. And it's because it's smaller and more intimate, and you really get to connect with people who are operating on a very, very high level. Not that you don't at Summit or, like in Punta Cana, but I think leadership just we're in a different mode that I think is really awesome. So I got to see Colleen a couple weeks ago. I was up in Tahoe skiing I was there with Nicole for a couple days, and then I was there with Josh Spencer and Mick McAllister. And Colleen lives down in South Lake, and we wanted to take a little drive around the lake, and ended up at this really awesome steakhouse with a view over the lake. I mean, that sunset, it was totally amazing. And, we kind of got to talking and reconnected, and it was really good. And I thought, you know what? That's somebody that you guys should hear from. So I'm going to shut up now for a little while anyway. That's not my specialty. And turn it over to Colleen. And I just kind of want you to start by kind of telling your story, about how you got involved with Beachbody, how you became a coach, all that good stuff.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. My favorite thing to do, I love to talk too, so I'm there with you, Dave. I love sharing my story. I love inspiring other people, because I was one of those people who was rock bottom, hot mess, and that silly little quote that every master was once a disaster, like that's kind of how I feel. So I'm proud of my hot mess story. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm 3,000 miles away from there now. So I went to high school with Elizabeth Hartkey. So she's my upline. And, when I grew up on the East Coast, I was born and raised that you work hard, you build your resume, you get this fancy job, and then you just climb the ladder. And bless my parents' heart, that's just kind of how I was raised. I've always kind of been like the black sheep in my family, where I do everything the opposite. But I went to school, got the grades, had the corporate job, and I was very successful as a Verizon wireless manager at a super young age. And when I moved across country to California, I brought that job with me. And a really ugly thing happened where I had a terrible boss. She made my life a living hell. The whole hot mess story that you always hear coming out of a job like that. And she hated me so much that she actually found a way to get rid of me. So I came into work one day, and this boss had transferred me to a store that was closing. So the rug was ripped out from underneath me. Like, I had all my eggs in one basket. I mean, talk about reality check of what can really happen out there today in this world. And I remember the moment that I lost my 6-year corporate career. I went to my car. I'm really close with my dad, and I called him, and I was like, I just lost my job. And I promised myself from that moment that I would never allow someone else to have the control over my life, my income, my schedule. That was the line in the sand for me. And, I was super upset. And I was definitely playing the victim role at that point in my life, but this was the beginning of my, okay, I want to take control. I want to create my own success. Kind of took the next year, picked up side jobs, enjoyed Tahoe a little bit. You know, I had been working since I was 15 years old. And then when I turned 27, I was like, okay, I've had a successful past. I'm educated. I'm motivated. What the heck are you doing, Colleen? I was extremely unhealthy from being so stressed out. I actually had stomach ulcers. I was a skinny, not very healthy kind of girl. I was partying, racking up credit card debt, just hot mess, right? When I was at a music festival, that was my aha moment. People always ask me, when was the moment you decided to go in with this? And I was at a music festival, laying in the tent, and my stomach pains were so bad that it actually was debilitating for me. And that was my moment where I said I had to make a change. Who can I contact that can help me? And then I also thought, okay, well, I kind of need a job. I need to make a job change. So I thought of Elizabeth Hartkey, who's this person. I know if you all know her, she's so humble. You wouldn't even know that she's amazingly successful with Beachbody unless you looked at her accolades or something. She's so humble. I love her. And she was the person who shared a happy picture of herself. She was living the life of freedom. And she wasn't, being egotistical about it. She was just sharing her happy little life. And so when I thought of who do I want to model after, she was it. And it's funny because I was a customer who bought a challenge pack in 2012 and returned it. And then I come back. Okay, I bought Turbo Fire and Chocolate Shakeology, which back then I had a crappy blender. No one told me how to make chocolate Shakeology. I thought it was disgusting. So I was broke as a joke. And I bought a $205 Turbo Fire challenge pack. So I kind of backpedaled, freaked out, returned it. So when I came back to her of June 30th, 2013, 5 in the morning, I woke up. It was 8 a.m. East Coast time, 5 a.m. here. I messaged her and said, here's my credit card. I'm signing up as a coach. She practically laughed at me, placed me over here in her second business center somewhere, And she was just like, yeah, whatever, Colleen, like here's Focus T25, Vanilla Shakeology, whatever. That was the day for me that I decided to own a business. I bought a planner and I became a student of this. I've watched people like Keith Callahan as her upline. I've watched Dave. I've watched Liz. I've watched Christina Delgado. And I said, how do I do what they've done? And I knew that everything I knew in the employee world was not going to carry over into what I knew, what was going to make me successful as a Beachbody coach. So I started like a freshman in high school and became a student, personal growth, health and fitness, mindset. And I've really just tried to master that. So that's kind of my entrance to Beachbody, and that's how I got started.
That's awesome. I love, it's funny. We have a couple of coaches on our team who've done really well, who return their stuff or, there's always some story. I wonder if I'm going to have to look for that in the future. Maybe there's some little personality trait that ticks off that when somebody returns something, I should maybe pay a little bit more attention to them. Right. I don't know what that is, but, yeah, I think a couple of things. First of all, Liz is fantastic. If you guys don't know Liz Hartkey, you really should. She is amazing. My first question for you is this. So, and it's a bit of a personal question, but I think you'll be okay with it. Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 31.
31. So how old were you when you started?
27.
And how was that a struggle for you? Did you kind of battle against that at all?
Honestly, no. I think because of my past jobs, I was leading a multi-million-dollar Verizon store at 23. So I've always had responsibility, my work ethic, my discipline, my drive, my show up ability has always been there. So for me, it was kind of just, I told myself, this is going to take you 2 years to even see success with. And I set a really big expectation for myself. So to answer your question, no, it really wasn't for my age thing. So
yeah, it's interesting because sometimes people have that. I know a lot of times, and actually I've used you as an example with some of our, some of the coaches who are in their 20s, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're really nervous about approaching people who are older than them. That seems to be kind of, and I know like Brad Bizjack, who I know you work with Brad really closely. Yeah. Brad was struggling with that for a while, where it's just like, how do I, I'm attracting people who are either my age or younger, and they're not very hardworking people just because they haven't quite figured life out yet.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious about that. Like, how did you approach that? And I've actually directed a lot of people like, hey, go look at what Colleen's doing. She was in her late 20s when she started this business. it's possible. You don't have to be 40, and maybe it's a little easier. I don't know. I'm always excited for you guys. Like, if you knew what I knew, if I had another, 10-year start on this thing,
yeah,
man, I'd be through the roof right now. But anyway, so talk to me a little bit about that. Do you ever struggle with like mentoring older people? How do you approach that?
So for me, I think it's harder for the younger crew for sure. So I think back to, and I'm on both sides of it, like 24 to 26 for me, bad years, like real bad. And I know it's so cliche to say, like the light switch just flipped on for me, and I made the decision that I did not want to live in the struggle city anymore. Money-wise, feeling-wise, like it just eventually gets old. So I know the 25, 26, 27 year, for some people, it's just kind of when they're ready, they'll be ready. For me, working with the older group, I don't really have, I think probably the oldest on my team is probably in their 40s. And I think social media is the biggest struggle for them. It's not that they can't be a good Beachbody coach, it's getting the flow down of opening up and sharing their life on social media. So our age group is definitely probably 25 to 35 on my team. And I think we do a really good job of attraction marketing because I really focus on social media a lot to attract people like us who are willing to put their life out there.
Yeah. And so talk to me about like, if you've got somebody and they're just starting to get into social media marketing. I know that is a big thing for you. What are you telling them? Talk a little bit about, love sharing your story, any sort of tips and tricks you have for people to get more comfortable with that.
So the first thing I do a 5-day quick start. There's a million things that people do to get people started. And one of the first things that I do is give them kind of the expectation of, okay, your storefront's open. So, your profile picture, your cover photo, clean up your profile a little bit, and then let's do a coming out post. And I give them an idea. I don't give them a script because I want them to make the choice and get used to having to type something out, and then we work with it. And then that for them usually is their first step of like, okay, I can do this. I challenge them to just have fun with social media at first. I don't want them to try to sell. I said, think about this. You can grow a business on social media by having some fun pictures, talking about your journey, getting good, being paid to be a professional storyteller. Don't think of this as, oh, I suck at social media. Let's just have some fun with it. Yeah. And I don't know, that's honestly how I approach it. And I work with them in their first 30 days. I give them a social media strategy of sharing a lot of emotion. So, if you loved your workout today, getting them good, helping them become really good at sharing, okay, here's how I felt about my workout today, speaking to their customer and their client. So I tell them to picture that their social media is like a coffee shop. It's not a shopping mall where you're selling to them. It's a coffee shop where you're connecting with people. And when they read your post, they should go, oh, I feel the same way. I used to be tired. I have no idea how to meal prep, or, whatever their story is. I help them put it out there to their customer client consistently and have fun with it.
Yeah. And is there like a rough outline you give them for a story or just a framework?
I think it's a little different for everyone. I do have a social media strategy that I give people, but like someone brand spanking new in their first week of coaching is not going to be doing like a live video, sharing, this and that. So I say for your first 30 days, I just need you to show up on social media once a day, share something that you learned, maybe PD, maybe through your workout, a failure, a struggle, getting them used to being vulnerable. And then the other two things can be something, maybe it's a workout video. That's an easy one, right? As a new coach. Yep. Then pick a branding position that is non-Beachbody. For me, that's hair, makeup, fashion, travel, adventure. So getting them to also share the other parts of their life.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I think sometimes, it's like, I definitely, when somebody's new, I want to help them make a sale quickly. I think it's important, for people to kind of get that under their belt, develop some confidence. Eric Worre's got a lot of numbers about retention rates and people having some success early, even if it's just, an energized, for example, great in the afternoon if you need a little pick me up. Even if it's just something like that, not a challenge pack or, making success club, but a lot of new people, just getting them moving, getting them going. And meanwhile, okay, let's take some time. You got to learn a lot of stuff. For my people, we're teaching this playbook content now and doing these playbook events. And the first rule of the playbook is be here a year from now. and why. And the reason why is in 10 years of doing this, my official start date was January 23rd of 2007. And in just over 10 years now, I've never met anybody who comes into this thing 100% prepared to do it. And I've sponsored people who are fitness professionals. They don't know anything about network marketing or sales. I've sponsored people who are network marketers. They know nothing about fitness and nutrition, and everybody's got to go somewhere. I find that new people they usually have some skills that carry over and they apply, even if it's just like they're really organized. Great. We can work with that. But they have to take some time and get more comfortable with it. And I think you're right that it's this vulnerability and being able to convey some emotion is difficult for people. The sort of framework that we give for people with a story is my life before Beachbody was like this. And here's what I wasn't satisfied with. Yeah. In whatever way that is. And then, then I found whatever the solution was you found. And then I did whatever the thing is that you did, whatever your tips are for success with fitness and nutrition. And then, now my life is like this, and here's what I'm excited about in the future. And that first step of my life before Beachbody, was like this. It's the part that people really want to skip over. And I love that you started with that, where you're like, was a master from a disaster? Is that what you said? I was saying
every master was once a disaster. So I think of the most successful people, and they all have some struggle, crazy story. Like, I feel like the more success, the more struggle they had. So
yeah, I think that's 100% true. And the other thing I want to move into as far as your story too was, this sort of when you had your never again moment, right? Like, I'm never gonna let somebody control my future like that. How difficult of the shift was it for you when I think what you said was you decided to own a business?
Yeah.
Becoming an entrepreneur and understanding, okay, I was a hardworking employee, and now I've got to be a hardworking entrepreneur, and I've got to be in charge of me. What was that like for you, and what sort of, kind of what did you go through, and then what did you do to learn how to deal with that?
So this kind of ties into the last thing that you asked me too about social media. So I also want to say that I was so excited to share on social media because there was something exciting to me. I thought of my social media, my Facebook timeline, my news feed that I was sharing every day as a blog. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing that someday I was going to have a ColleenCurtisFitness.com website. And early on, I was excited about that. Yeah. So I didn't have a website. I was on day 3 of coaching. So I said, every day I'm going to make a little mini blog post on my social media. And I really think that I hit success starters. I earned like the cruise, all that stuff, just from thinking of my social media as this blog platform. So I wanted to say that. So for me making this transition, I said, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So what have the successful people done? And like, I'm very motivated by money. So I set the expectation that if $1,000 a week to me with Beachbody back then, I was like, if I can do that, I'll be set. So I said, Colleen, that earning $1,000 as a Beachbody coach is going to take you time. I did not have any expectations other than hard work, because to me, like, the kind of money that you earn, the kind of money that Liz earns, that's mind blowing to me. So I'm like, clearly that has to be a lot of hard work. I knew that, you hear it all the time. You're going to show up for 6 months and I earned $6,000 in my first 6 months.
Nice.
Income disclaimer, yada, yada.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So my coaches are kicking my butt comparison to, what I made then, my newer coaches at least. And so I knew that I was going to put in time and not feel paid. And I was okay with that. So I, in my business with my coaches, try to set the expectation of, you're going to have days where you're like, is this worth it? You have to see yourself in 2 years. And I even go beyond the 1 year. Like, in 1 year, you're going to understand PD. You're going to understand coaching. You're going to gain momentum. In 2 years, you will start to grow. I feel like it takes people at least 18 months to be like, light bulbs on, let's freaking do this.
Yep.
So yeah, I stopped trading time for money, and I set the expectation that stop focusing so much on okay, I put in 2 hours. Why didn't I hit Success Club? I just went like crazy with putting in effort. I wasn't the person who worked 1 hour a day. Every waking moment for my first 2 years, not to scare anyone off, but that's what I did. I was passionate about this. So
Yeah, no, and I think it's really, for me, it was really an interesting transition too, because it was like, I was in this really high stress, painful environment, practicing law. And then I was like, okay, well, now I'm my own boss. Like, oh, wow, I've got to like organize my own schedule and I've got to do all this stuff. And I think at some point I was able to make the mental connection to what I was getting paid to do, and that I was getting paid to help people. And fundamentally, like just going back and looking at how Team Beachbody started, it really started because Carl and John were pretty good at selling stuff on infomercials, but they weren't great at helping people, to complete programs and to get results. And when I was able to connect those two things together, that's really what I was doing, is I get paid to help people, and was like, okay, so what do I need to be doing? Just always make sure you're helping people, And the other thing I think you said that is, it's fun. It's always funny to me. I think people have a hard time with this, but is that you're motivated by money.
Oh yeah.
I think somehow that narrative has been, I don't know, do you find people who aren't willing to, maybe they're just not willing to admit it, but who are like kind of put off by that?
Oh, there's people this is my thing. I tell everyone that if you don't want to earn money, like the pearls, right? Like, oh, like whatever, money. Well, money stresses us out at one point or another in our week or in our month. And so I just help them realize that having a healthy relationship with money, to understand that money is not the root of all evil. Money serves you. Money equals freedom. So for me, I'm focusing on my freedom. And before the freedom comes, I have to earn my money. So my priority is adventure, is building relationship with Sean, is filling my happy cup. That's my priority, which equals freedom. And so what's the work that has to be done? I have to earn the money to have that freedom. So I think if people are okay and they're comfortable with a routine, they're not going to push for the freedom, which comes from the money. But then the people who want that type of freedom, they're going to push for that money.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's, it's a tough, I think, mental connection a lot of times, and I think the other thing that's difficult for people often in making this transition is that, they're used to this business model that, like, when you work for Verizon, it was pretty clear. Like, it was, okay, if you do X amount of hours and we'll pay you Y amount of money, and if you don't, we'll fire you. Bye. And that's your deal. And it's like, oh, this really straightforward thing. Here, it just doesn't work like that. Right? It's like you said, I remember too, my first couple of years in this business, I worked like crazy. We're recording this right now at 2:24 on a Thursday afternoon because I don't do calls at night anymore, but I used to. I did them for a really long time. I did one-on-one calls. I did team calls, did all kinds of stuff at night because that's when I had the time to do it. And I was going to do exactly what you were talking about. It's interesting. I think we all have, I'm so impressed by the people who are the real founders in this business because, their Beachbody's always really nice to me and they give me a little founder badge at Summit and stuff. But I didn't start this business, People like Monica who started this business and didn't have anybody to sort of model after, like for me, like by the time, late 2008, early 2009, when I really got involved, there were people who had crazy success. They'd left corporate jobs. They'd done all kinds of stuff. And I was able to look at those people and go, oh, I'm going to go do that. Yeah. And I think that inspiration was really important for me. But I think people do struggle with this money issue. And I love the way that you're sort of putting this together of connecting it with your why, And I find too, as much as I find the people who were a disaster, right, tend to have the most success, I also find that people who are able to develop and connect to a big reason for doing this business are also the people who tend to have the most success. Do you have anything like tips for that? Like, how do you help people connect with their why if they're struggling with that?
Oh, that's a hard question because I'm very upfront with my coaches. And before someone joins my team, they know what I'm about. I'm very clear in my sharing that, if you join my team, I'm going to tell you the amount. I'm not like, join my team, it's the best thing ever. I'm like, join my team, we're going to work hard, we're going to change your life. So then when I'm talking to someone about, hey, I need to know, my go-to question is, what do you want to achieve with this coaching business? And how would that make you feel if I can help you do that? Because everyone's going to say, I'm going to do it for my kids. Well, then when it gets hard and then the kids are the reason that they're driving you crazy and you're busy, I feel like if you're not focused on the feeling of actually progressing towards your goal and you're not saying, okay, well, I know that my kids are driving me crazy right now, but I have to push through so that down the road I can have this feeling of freedom. Like, you can't just go to the pain. You have to go to the progress. I don't even know if that makes sense coming out of my mouth now, but I don't know. I'm always thinking ahead to, okay, I have a choice right now. I can live with the pain or I can focus on the progress. And anytime I do a talk, it's you have a choice. You're going to do it or you're not. And I'm very black and white. So with my coaches, I just had a coach last night who totally started to tail off. New coach. I said, what happened? And she goes, I wasn't losing the weight and I couldn't make the calls. So I felt like I couldn't be engaged. Like this whole, like, I don't know, right? BS thing. I said, girl, like, you either have to face the pain of these reasons and stories that you're telling yourself right now, which I know is not easy, or you're never going to get ahead. You're going to stay in the exact same place than where you were when you signed up in January. And I'm honest with them in my mentoring. I said, I'm here to partner with you. I've been in your shoes. I've struggled. I just need you to keep it simple and keep showing up. I'm all about showing up. So that's how I help people push through that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Was it hard for you to get to the point where you were comfortable or okay really being honest with people?
I've always been honest. I actually had to reel it in. I had to learn, because my mom and dad were the family where the expectations were set high for me. Yeah. And if I didn't deliver, they just had to look at me and I was like, shit, I didn't do that. I didn't do a good job, you know? But they always loved on me in a way too. So when I came into the leadership mentoring aspect, I'm like, okay, that's really not going to work. So I've had to learn with aligning and seeing myself as equal as people. And so it's not me here and you here. I remind them, we're equal. I'm human, you're human, life is hard. I'm here with you struggling. You just have to make the decision if you want to face the obstacle and fight it with me. And so I really kind of put the ball in their court, and leadership's all about transferring that belief, as we've been told, right? And I really believe in that. So
yeah, talk about that really quickly, because I totally agree with what you just said as far as transferring belief to people. Like, what's that belief that you're trying to transfer?
So I know for a fact that people, and I kind of did it in the beginning too, where they're like, oh, well, Dave Ward can do it, I never could, or Liz can do it, I never could. And my go-to saying is, girl, someone else has done it. You're the only one talking yourself out of the fact that you don't think you can do this. Your husband isn't telling you. I hope he's not telling you that you can't do this. You know, there's always that, but it's not your friends. And it's me and myself in this office every single day. Mm-hmm. This is why I'm a huge PD mindset master kind of person, because my boss isn't over my shoulder telling me what to do. There's no one saying, hey, Colleen, go, go, go every single day. So if I'm not up here being my own biggest cheerleader, pushing myself every single day, I'm going to feel defeated. So all of my coaching in the very beginning is getting them to have that mindset, new beginning, clean slate, you know nothing. And I was there too. I came into this, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have getting started right. Liz was like, hey, welcome to the team, because she didn't think I was going to do anything. I'm going on a honeymoon to Bora Bora for 14 days. Good luck. And she said, hit Success Club and hit Emerald. And that's what I did. And I kept it simple. And I know that sounds silly just saying that, but it's true, guys. Like, I came into this business and I just went for it. Like, I didn't allow myself to tell the story of like, oh, well, Liz has done it, why can't I? If I have that feeling, my tool and my resource is PD.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, like, inviting took me 18 months to understand. Even though it said invite, it did not click with me. And now I finally realized what it meant, and it's invite people into your world. That's what that means. So when people get so scared about this inviting, like, I didn't get it in the beginning. So all I did was hit Success Club for 18 months. That's all I did. I didn't have a team. Sean was my first diamond. That was it. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay, I have to serve people. I have to teach them how to do this too. So, guys, I kind of sucked in the beginning. I'll be honest. I know that you hear like what I've accomplished, but I wasn't fantastic in the beginning. So.
Yeah, I think I think it's important for people to hear that. I really do. I'm glad you said it, because I do think it's important for people to hear that. I think sometimes, and I think it's why, as we go back to storytelling, right? Like, it's why you've got to show them, like, here's how I came into this thing. You know, I was in Dallas when we did our playbook event in Dallas. It was really kind of funny because Mindy Lawhorn was sitting next to me, and Mindy's like, you know, doesn't cuss at all, and I do. And like, I was telling them what an obnoxious asshole I used to be. And like, I was going into detail about like, this is what a jerk I was. And I was doing it so they could understand, look, you know, I had certain advantages coming into this business. No doubt about it. Like, hard work, not a problem. Never a problem for me. But I had a massive ego. And I was just a jerk. I didn't know how to connect to people.
You had an ego?
Yeah, I didn't know how to believe, huh? I still, you know, like, I am still constantly shadow boxing with myself. I'm just aware of it now. You know, I'm just aware of it, and I have to, and I've just gotten better at, okay, I need to check that, because that doesn't work for me, because it pisses people off. And this is a business that's about relationships. Right. I was just talking to a coach who just joined our team, and that's exactly what we were talking about. I was like, look, this whole thing is about building relationships. Building relationships is about making people feel special and valued, and honoring them, and doing all those sorts of things. And if you can do that, then you're going to have some success. So something I want to talk about, I want to get into this personal development thing. So like, when we talk about personal development, what we kind of divide things into two different areas. There's mindset, and then there's skill set. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about mindset first. Like, what are some of your favorite books or audios or seminars, or what do you do that you dig?
I'm even going to give you a third type of PD.
Cool.
But for mindset. So my mindset was the biggest thing. I was negative Nancy. You know, Sean, my now husband, then boyfriend, has left me for that kind of stuff back in the day. Like, it was crazy how I literally had to say, Colleen, you've got to change your ways. And I had to become self-aware. So the first book for me, I actually just pulled it out today. As dry as John C. Maxwell is, this is one of his best books, but Thinking for a Change. Huge wake-up call for me. And then, you know, the You Are a Badass came out. And then, like, the more, I call them rainbow butterfly, glittery, make you feel good books. That's what I call, like, the You personal development. The Magic of Thinking Big, Josh Spencer turned me on to. But was there another part to that question you wanted me to answer for mindset, or? No,
just wondering, you know, kind of what do you go to, audios or any audiobooks or anything like that? Are you an audiobook person?
I was listening to Entrepreneur on Fire for a while, which is not a mindset thing, but like, for me, let me just say this. I have three areas of personal development that I focus on. One is the Me book. You got to feel good. You got to have their mind in there. Gabby Bernstein, for my babes out there who are kind of on a spiritual level, she's been really life-changing for my team and I this year. You know, Tony Robbins, but he's a little too raw for me, but it's cool. It's cool. The second type of personal development is the business book, which is what you were saying, the skill set. The Brendan Burchard's 6 Months to Six Figures is another great book. I love workbooks because in every single book I have, I don't do audio because I take notes. I'm like a legit student. I geek out on it. I create free groups based on my PD. This is how I kind of like mold my challengers. That kind of sounds weird to say mold my challengers, but Gary Vee, you know, he's the man. Extreme Ownership, if you guys are wanting to get like a good, do you have that too? Yeah.
I actually have this on both audio and the book format. A friend of mine who is Clint Blankenship, who's a commanding officer at a naval facility up in Oregon, sent me this book. And I read the first chapter, and the next day I was going up to Big Bear to ski. And I was like, I can't read this thing while I drive, but it's like an 8-hour drive. So I downloaded the audiobook, and I don't know how many times I've listened to that. But then I went back through the book and did exactly what you were talking about, highlighter, and, you know, it's a mess now. Great book.
Social media tip, when you guys need content, I don't know how this works for guys necessarily, but for girls, every single day, this is how I feed my positivity and the like life inspiration hacks into people's brains every day is I highlight and I take notes, and then that's my post content. I tell my story, I teach a lesson, and then I kind of, you know, I pass the torch to the people reading it, transferring that belief back to that question. But The last business book that I love is the 10X Rule. So when my husband went through chemo and treatment, my grandmother passed away, craziest week of my life. It was holidays 2015, and I'm walking through the airport, and I'm like, all right, universe, I need a break. Somewhere give me a sign that it's all going to be good. And I remember hearing about the 10X Rule, and I swear, it popped out in the newsstand store, and it was just right there. It had the big 10X on it. And I dove into that and I ate that up. That has been extremely instrumental. When you have those years or months where you get stuck at a rank and you're like, what am I doing wrong? I go to that 10X rule every single time when I want to get to the next level. So the third type of PD is experience. I think too many people get stuck behind their computer and 10 minutes of PD and 10 minutes of audio, and then they don't go have that human connection or that experience. So I'll have so many coaches that are just these PD gurus, but they haven't talked to anyone in person in 2 months, or they haven't tried something new. And my most life-changing moments have been human connection in person. I don't know how that is for you guys, but that's why events are a huge part of this. Getting out of your comfort zone, sharing your story at a Super Saturday. I started by checking in tickets at a Super Saturday. You have to start somewhere by getting involved and having an experience, because that's going to help you believe that you can be a leader on stage someday, or leading a big team, or having a successful business. I really think you need that experience.
I am stealing that. Just so you know.
Okay.
Just so you know, I'm totally stealing that. Because it's something that I talk about. I just haven't ever articulated it that way. And what I often talk about, I used to go to a lot of seminars. That's really how I started with personal development, and I still do. I love going to a seminar. There's something about being in the room.
Me too.
I'm not listening to something I have no doubt that somebody's listening to this right now. They're not watching it. They're on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I do that too. I'm guilty of all that too. And I found getting in the room forced me to really do it. And early on, I was doing Psi seminars, which is super experiential. So you're not taking a lot of notes. You're up moving around, and they put you in these situations and then give you an opportunity to look at how you react. And I met all these seminar junkies. I met all these people who had gone to every seminar, and now there a lot of them are Tony Robbins people now, and they just go to every event, and they've done all this work, and they know all the answers to the test. They can finish sentences for whoever their person is that they go to. And to me, it's you're building this toolbox. That's kind of how I look at personal development. It's I'm building this toolbox, right? And I've got I need some different tools to build something, right? I need not just a bunch of hammers, right? I need hammer, and I need some, wrenches, and I need different stuff. And these people to me were these people who had these great toolboxes, meticulously organized, shiny tools. They never take out a hammer, right? And just swing the thing, get it dirty, drop it, scratch it up. It's a tool, and it's meant to be used, and not just sit there in your tiny little box, and never, get used. And so I do think you're totally right about that. I think that's the only way to really develop ultimately the belief system in yourself that you can do it, is to go out and do it. And you've got to I remember for me, one of the big books early on was Failing Forward, another John C. Maxwell book. And his stuff is a little bit dry, but Failing Forward was huge for me because I was in an industry where you don't make mistakes. Early on, I think it was my third year of law practice, I had a case where I screwed up service. So as you start a lawsuit, you've got to serve a summons and complaint in order to initiate the lawsuit. And I needed to do that within a certain amount of time, and I didn't do it correctly. And the lawsuit got dismissed. And it was multi-million-dollar case. It was a big sand and gravel mine. And I had worked for about a year and a half to eventually I figured out totally by accident, I'd actually served the right person who needed to be served. And I was able to prevail ultimately. But it was a year and a half of just absolute abject misery facing with this malpractice claim just looming over my head. And I was okay, mistakes are bad. That was what I connected to that. You can't make a mistake. So I became so ultra careful and conservative. And when I came into this business, and my sponsor Monica but also the people who were mentoring us, they were like, well, just go out there and mess it up.
Right.
I was like, what? I can't do that. I lived in a world where if you didn't know what you were talking about, you should keep quiet. Because I'm like 4th generation lawyer. So I was raised by lawyers. So if you're like at the dinner table and you start chiming in with some information, you better know what the hell you're talking about, because someone's going to correct you. Yeah. And it was really a big challenge for me to get over that and just go out there and mess it up. And I think that, then, after a while, like I'll talk with a lot of guys struggle with confidence, right? And what it does for them is it really paralyzes them. They don't try because they're afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. And they'll come up with something over here that's the reason that they're struggling, right? But it's really just, you're not willing to try because you don't want to fail. And I think that you've got to get out there and just go do it. And people talk to me like, well, how do you get the confidence to, like when I was doing the men's leadership thing, that's kind of a scary position to put yourself in, because you're like, okay, so I'm the guy who leads all the men, what? Like I just assigned myself this title and I didn't really think about it until I got there. And I was like, whoa, okay, I better step up my game here.
Yeah.
And what happened for me, and I think what happens for most people, is when you go out and you start swinging hammers, you start to develop self-confidence. You just start to trust yourself. That's what happened for me. I didn't really trust myself when I started this business, but slowly or surely, as things started to work more and more and more, I started to just gain more confidence in me and my instincts. And, there has been more stuff that I've done over the years that has failed than anything I've done that's succeeded, as far as, especially with social media and like email marketing and all that type of stuff. But I go into it going, okay, this is a good idea. I just need to execute on it properly. And I think that confidence is a lot of what people really, really lack.
I always say I'm like a very visual person. So you sign up with me as a coach, you're scared, you have no confidence. And so you asked me earlier, what was that transition from employee to entrepreneur? So being an entrepreneur is like, you sign up with Dave, he locks you in a dark room and you're sitting in the middle of the dark room and you're like, what the F just happened? Where did you just put me? I can't see anything. I know nothing. And then you're kind of like, why did I do this? Right? An entrepreneur will succeed when they stand up and flail around for as long as it takes them to find the light switch. And then you go, oh, okay, I get it. Remember my first 18 months, I'm flailing in the dark. Most people don't like that, uncomfortable. They feel like they're failing. They don't like the mistakes because you're thinking like an employee. Mistakes are bad, just like you said. Entrepreneur, I want you to picture locked in a dark room, flailing around. You will find the light switch if you trust in your mentors and just make the mistakes. That's the only way that you're going to learn. You guys know that though. But that's like my favorite little visual.
I love that. I'm probably going to steal that too. So, okay, that's kind of it for questions. Anything like you want to leave us with, tips, tricks? Like what's your, give me your good stuff.
Oh man, there's so
What's the secret?
Honestly, to wrap everything up in like one little pretty bow. In my world, I believe that the amount of success you will have in this business equals the amount of personal growth you do. So everyone has the same training and the same mentoring. You know how to hit diamond. You know what a 15 star is. You know what a millionaire is. You know how to produce volume. So why isn't everyone doing it? It's because they're not willing to go through all their cobwebs. So when you join this, your confidence is probably on a scale of 1 to 10, a 5. Average human is about a 5. They're not working on their confidence. You have to level up every month, every year, until you'll never be a 10, you'll never be perfect. I need you to focus on being a 9. I need you to focus on being dedicated to your personal growth journey, because confidence is about knowing that you'll figure it out. It's not about knowing, exactly how to hit 15 star. When people are like, tell me how to hit 15 star. And I'm like, you just keep going, you dig. And they're like, no, but tell me, what's the, ABC 1, 2, 3 thing I have to do? And it's this huge journey ahead of you. Most people don't have the confidence that they'll figure it out, so they don't try. So the reason I brought up the whole 18-month thing and I didn't have any team was because I knew how to work out, drink a shake, and do PD. Vital behavior number 1, didn't really get that. So I did so much PD because I could control that. And now my mindset and my tenacity is so strong that I've had crazy life obstacles come my way and it didn't even faze me. It was just like, okay, like I'm just going to keep working out. I'm going to keep rank advancing. So if you want insurance in this business to believe you can do it, you have to have the mindset and the confidence that you can figure it out. Only way to do that, personal growth.
It's funny you mentioned that. I remember my dad died in 2007, and that was really before I had started doing any kind of personal growth. And because I thought it was just for broken people. That's really, I remember the first seminar I walked in, I was like, who are these losers? Like, look at these, this is just a room full of losers. I'm a lawyer. I don't need this. This is, again, obnoxious asshole. I was such a jerk. And my dad passing away just crushed me, And then in, 2014, when Monica and I split up, I was like, I can handle this and we can be friends, and it's going to be okay. And why? It's just all the growth. Like, I've seen so many of my friends get divorced and they're angry and they use their kids as little chess pieces, and it's horrible. And it was like, both of us were like, okay, we're not going to behave like this. Here's what we want for a future together. We want to continue to work together. We want to continue to be friends. We want to continue to be great parents together. And I never could have gotten there without doing exactly what you just talked about, which is just continuing constantly to work on myself. It's just like you. I've got all my little go-to books right here by my desk. They're within arm's reach. I've got a nice, book.
So many.
Right? Like, I got a nice bookshelf in the other room because I don't have room for it here in my office that has a bunch of other books. But the stuff that is like, that's what I need right now. I need to just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, go sit outside and read this book, and just like, those things have been so instrumental in my journey, and I know in yours for sure.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll share, I'll let you guys go.
Yeah.
My favorite tips for people, because when they're trying to figure it out, like, okay, I know, do PD, show up. You said all that, Colleen. Rah-rah cheerleader. And so if you want something to figure out as far as like the how-to, is you need to learn how to wear the Beachbody Coach hat, which you and I wear. Shakeology, challenge groups, change lives. What's the difference between you and me? People always are like, how do I stand out? You have to learn how to wear the Beachbody hat and the CEO hat. And the CEO hat, as John C. Maxwell says, is the 5th level of leadership. When you wake up dedicated to serve people every single day, when your personal growth and your journey is so strong that you start to transition to the CEO, it's not that, I can't go to Super Saturday because I have a birthday party, or, I couldn't make a post today, or I couldn't do my challenge group or my workout because of XYZ. The ultimate CEO shows up because they're dedicated to serving other people. And I learned this lesson when, Sean went through treatment. I said, I can't back off. I'm the CEO. I have to show up because my audience is looking for my posts. My team needs me. My challengers need me. Most of the Beachbody coaches that haven't made that transition, it's the them story. It's the, well, this is happening in my life. CEOs, they're going to serve either way. So when you can find your mission statement of how you're able to wake up and serve people every day, like we all have our, so what do you do as a coach? We all answer that differently. When you are so confident in how you serve people every day, you will really start to see the tribe and the team and your customers like showing up. I feel like as soon as I made that switch to CEO of serving every day, my team really started to show up.
Yep. 100%, and I'll just to add on to that, when I do team calls for people, one of the ways that I talk about what we do, which I believe I just get paid to help people. That's fundamentally, I believe that. And that's how I operate. And so I always tell them, I say, at the end of the week, when I go add up my paycheck, there isn't a line item for this call,
right.
But I know it helps people. So that's why I'm doing it, right? Like, I think too many people are too concerned about that employee arrangement where it's like, well, yeah, but I'm doing X for Y amount and this isn't included in X, so Y doesn't matter. So I don't need to do those things. And I think exactly what you're talking about is really how we need to operate, and how really the successful people in this business do operate. Is it's in service to other people. And I just want to say thank you so much for being in service to us. I value your friendship so much, and it's been just so great getting to know you guys over the years, and I'm so glad we got to catch up in Tahoe. It was great seeing you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. Say hi to Sean for me, will you?
I will.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Colleen.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Bye, guys. See you later.